Hello everyone, I'm explaining the solution for problem 1 calculating the sum and average of 10 user input integers using loops and if-else. First, the logic I use a for loop running from I is equal to 0 to I is less than 9 to collect exactly 10 integers. Inside the loop, an if statement checks input's validity. If scanf doesn't return 1, it means the input isn't a valid integer, so the program promotes an error message. Next, the syntax declared sum as an integer to store the total and average as a double. For precise decimal results, the for loop uses I as a counter and scanf percentage %d and num. Reads each input into the variable num, then SQL practices an edit clear promos example. Please enter 10 integers and specify the nth number to avoid confusion. Use input validation to prevent invalid inputs like letters from breaking the program and avoid misleading hard-coding since the program requires 10 integers that explicitly noted the value 10 in comments, and then when we run the program, we could enter 10 integers. After valid inputs, it outputs the sum and average clearly, as shown in the result section.
Hi, I'm Zhou Siray, and I'll explain the solution for problem 2, the simple calculator using switch case. First, let's look at the core requirements. The task was to build a calculator that supports basic operations, uses switch case for logic control. Starting with the code structure, I included two key headers, stdio.h for input, output, and stdlib.h to assist with validation. The main function initializes variables for operators, two numbers, the result, and a flag to track valid inputs. I added clear user instructions at the start. This is an ethical practice because it reduces confusion and ensures users know how to interact with the program. Then the code prompts for an operator and validate it first. If the user enters something other than addition, minus, product, or division, the program throws an error and exits. This prevents invalid operations from crashes the program. Next, the code asks for two numbers and uses scanf to return value. For the calculation logic, switch case is used to handle each operator. Each case performs the corresponding math and set the valid input flag to 1. The critical part here is the division case. I added a check for number if number 2 equals to 0 to prevent division by 0, which is a common runtime error. This aligns with safe program practice by avoiding crashes. Throughout the code, I included ethical comments like explaining that clear instructions reduce confusion, or that division by zero checks prevent the errors. These comments document the ethical considerations required by the assignment, ensuring transparency and maintainability. Finally, if all inputs are valid, the program prints the result with two decimal places for readability. If any validation falls, the program exists with an error code and a clear message so users understand what went wrong. That's all of about my program.
Through this program, We can convert Fahrenheit temperature to Celsius temperature. Firstly, we should include the header file of this program. Then we should int a function. In this function, we can introduce variables to store the user's menu selection and Fahrenheit temperature and Celsius temperature, like choice, Fahrenheit, and Celsius. Next, we can use the do while loop to execute the loop body first and then check if it exists. First of all, we can print the menu to display interactive options. The number one means convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. Number two means exit the program. Here, we ask the user to enter his choice, number one or number two. And here we use scanf to get the user's selection. Secondly, we can use switch or switch case to select temperature conversion or select exit. If the user entered the number one, then we can get the result from this process. And the output retains two decimal places for clarity. If the user entered number two, then it will present program exit successfully. Thank you for your using. If the user enters the number apart from one or two, then it will present invalid input. Please enter one or two and then repeat displaying the menu.
CST250956. It's my honor to introduce the problem for asks us to perform the code to classify alphabet, count vowels and consonants using loops and condition. First, we need to declare variables. We use int data type to declare vowel and consonant. We use char data type to declare alphabet and choice. Then we use do while loop to ask the user print alphabet, and we use the ctype.h header to call alpha function from character type library function, and with the if statement to determine whether the input is alphabet. If the input isn't alphabet, we will ask the user to print the alphabet and exit the program. And if the input is the vowels, we let the vowel plus one. If the input isn't the vowels but it is the alphabet, the consonant plus one. And we use printf to ask the user whether they want to input more alphabet or not. If the user input y, the program will execute the while loop once more. This loop will repeat continuously until the user inputs n or any character other than y, at which point the loop terminates. Finally, we use printf to tell the user the number of vowels and the number of consonants, then return one to exit the program. Let's have a try to look whether the program can run perfectly. We give alphabet A and if alphabet S, if alphabet E, we can get the number of vowels is 2 and the number of consonants is 1.